Barri is the president and CEO of Ketchum, which is one of the largest communications firms in the world, a global agency. And she is the first female to not just head Ketchum, that agency, but to head what's considered a top 5 communications agency in the world. She truly shattered the ceiling and opened the way for many generations, including your generations to come. On that night in New York, at that dinner, her agency, Ketchum, took top honors in 5 categories. 3 of these categories were creating public awareness around important issues. One was around teen driver safety. Another was around opioid abuse, personalizing that tragedy in a way that I think made people stop and think that this isn't something that happens to other people. This is something that happens in our community, maybe to people that we know. And also a campaign about Puerto Rico, which, if you remembered, was emerging from the tragedy of Hurricane Maria, and desperately needed to restart its economic engine to get tourism going. And her agency was involved in the campaign to encourage people to go to Puerto Rico and be involved in what would be that recovery. The capper of the evening, though, was to see her agency be named the best agency of the past 20 years. That's remarkable in the highly competitive field that public relations is, to be considered over the span of 20 years to be the top in the country and in the world. I mean, we all here in New England, we think a lot about Tom Brady. He's called the GOAT, as you know, the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. But even Tom Brady hasn't quarterbacked the Patriots for 20 years. So he can't even say he's accomplished over 20 years what Ketchum and what Barri Rafferty has continued to do. But the most important thing I want to mention in my introduction is that Barri once sat where you are sitting here. She was a student at the College of Communications seeking a master's degree, ultimately in communications, in public relations, that would take her on the career journey that she's been on now. She has been honored many, many times in the profession and for the work that she has done outside that profession. She was recently in London inducted into the International Communications Consultancy's Hall of Fame. But as important as the work she has done for her agency and for commercial and other purposes, she's been honored also as a mentor for younger professionals, and particularly as an advocate for gender parity and for women's leadership. She's been a frequent speaker nationally, internationally, including at the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland, and on the TED Talk stage. You can find her talk on the TED Talk, I'm sure, by just Googling that. So it's with great pleasure and a great honor that I introduce to you Barri Rafferty.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to move that down. Dean Fiedler. And many of you might not know, but he is celebrating his last graduation in his role this afternoon. And we all owe him tremendous thanks for the last 11 years, so I think we should give him a round of applause. So distinguished faculty and staff, proud parents, family members, and friends, and of course, the 160 members of the class of 2019 who are earning a master's degree today from Boston University College of Communication. I could not be more delighted to be here. BU has played an important role in my life and career, and so too has one of your faculty members, Ray Kocher. Yes, you see, I am actually, deserves applause, the second BU Com master's degree graduate to serve as CEO of Ketchum. Ray was first, and I've had the privilege of working for him and beside him. And I know many of you have had the benefit of his wisdom and guidance and support as I have. As those of you that have been lucky enough to have him as your professor, you know exactly what I mean. Thank you, Ray, for all you've done for me, Ketchum, and the university we both hold so dear. So a few years ago, well, maybe a bit more than that, I was sitting right where you are now. I was in the early stages of my communications career. I was working for Cone Communications here in Boston while pursuing my graduate degree. Like you, perhaps, I was contemplating my future on graduation day. I had no job confirmed, but I did have a boyfriend in New York I was about to move in with. No big deal today, but let's just say at that point, moving in with your boyfriend was not exactly popular with my parents. It's a bit scandalous at the time. I also, like you, had the blank pages of my life story ready to fill as I prepared for my next chapter. But as for the plot for my autobiography, I hadn't a clue. If I could go back in time and see myself sitting where you are today, there are a few things I would tell my younger self. First, I would say, think about what you want your legacy to be. Now, that may sound ridiculous at this point. You're just beginning to carve out your life story. One sentence, one paragraph, one chapter at a time. Can you really know where you'll be in 10, 20, even 30 years? No. But you can think about what you want your personal brand to stand for. The point is, now is the perfect time to identify your goals. What do you want to achieve? How do you want to get there? What does success mean to you? These answers may shift over time, but you need to start and think about the arc of your story. You've already begun that process by choosing this graduate school and applying yourself to a specific major. Now, some of you more methodical, left-brain types may have no trouble outlining a linear path forward. There's others that may wander and travel and stumble into something exciting. There's no one correct way to do it. As long as you do these things, listen fearlessly. Keep an open mind to opportunity. Trust your gut, and put yourself in places and corporate cultures where you can stretch your thinking and develop your skills. You will also have a chance to determine your work ethic and how your workplace brand will be perceived. For example, I have never been one to shy away from the tough assignments. In fact, I have achieved success by working very hard at every stage to raise my hand and take on initiatives outside of my job scope, and be very persistent in finding and cultivating successors to replace me so I could move up. I have also learned something that your professors might not agree with me on, but I think this is true in school and not always true in life, and that is the thought of pursuing perfectionism, or that A+, because what I can tell you in the workplace is it might not always pay off. Sometimes getting that A- or B+ may be a better use of your energy. That may be hard to relate to now, but I'm betting those in the stands understand what I'm saying. Another trait I have always wanted to be known for is generosity. That can mean the time you invest in coaching and mentoring others, making your clients heroes in their organizations, or just the way you make others feel in daily meetings and interactions. What I can tell you is, though, that generosity is also the gift that gives back. So to my next piece of advice, this one is to constantly disrupt yourself. We often hear about startups and technology advances that are disrupting entire industries. Well, you too have the opportunity to transform your way of thinking and working and living over time. Personal disruption is never having a comfort zone or a routine, but always embracing the new comfortably. Think about that. Always embracing the new comfortably. Push yourself to explore the latest high-tech advancements. Borrow some of those augmented reality glasses and literally see the world in a new way. Seek out people with diverse interests and opinions and engage with them online and off. And surround yourself with those more in tune with trends or apps that aren't on your radar yet. Communications disciplines are changing at the fastest pace in history. You must be willing to embrace change and innovation with open arms. When my PR career began, concepts like influencer marketing, data-driven insights, visual storytelling, and virtual teams weren't part of the lexicon, but they sure are now. And I remain eager to help our agency and our industry continue to evolve and disrupt how we approach the business. The most successful people I know are knowledge seekers. They read, listen, and watch voraciously, even if it's just consuming a good executive summary. Continuous learning, and yes, this is only the beginning of your lifelong education, may prompt you to experiment and pursue new opportunities, and that can end up taking your story on a new path. Ray reminded me of something when I was working on the speech, and that is how I made the case to him to take on the leadership of digital when I was leading Ketchum's New York office. You see, I was not even on the consideration list, but I convinced him that no one really had the skill sets at the time. And I came to our exec team with a plan to grow the business that was inclusive and forward-thinking. It was based on a unique shareholder model. The point is, people won't always tap you on the shoulder. You have to learn to be an advocate for yourself. I think a corollary to disrupting yourself is to building that bravery muscle. Fight that negative voice in your head. Come on, we all have it. Your fears, whatever they may be. Attack them front and center. Are you afraid of public speaking? Volunteer to deliver that work presentation. Are you uncomfortable working in groups? Beg to join a project team. As I look back on my career, I realize that the worst thing that could possibly happen is really usually not that bad. A project fails. A new job doesn't work out the way you had hoped. You didn't get the raise you asked for. Each of these story twists will be an adventure in your book of life. And sometimes the failures are the things that make you stronger, smarter, and more prepared for what's next. Experience, all experiences, enhance your resilience and ability to overcome the hurdles that will appear in your story. So speaking of bravery, the other thing I'll tell you is a career rarely takes a straight line. So in my case, about 17 years ago, I had 2 young children, a global role heading our brand practice, plus the associate director role of our New York office. The long hours, combined with my commute from Connecticut to Manhattan, were not working for me. Leadership provided me with an opportunity to move to my hometown of Atlanta to serve as office director. Some suggested this would slow my career trajectory, but at the time, the opportunity to be closer to family members and work in a smaller market was the right chance for me. I gained valuable experience in making the tough decisions that come from leading a profit and loss center, and that skill has consequently served me well. Without taking that risk and moving what many called sideways, I wouldn't have been as prepared for my job as Ketchum's CEO, and my work-life integration wouldn't have been as satisfying. My next piece of advice is to leverage your superpower. Yes, we all have one. For many of you, one of the superpowers I'm betting you take for granted is your creativity. I can promise you in the business world, creativity is a rare trait. As communications professionals, you are blessed with skills and attributes that many people don't possess. You have the ability to see beauty in the stories around you, and you can find fascinating ways to bring them to life. Early in my career, I worked on the Owens Corning fiberglass business at Burson Marsteller, promoting, get ready for this exciting category, insulation, roofing, and siding materials, all via B2B channels. As an assistant account executive doing my due diligence on the company, I noticed that the manufactured home business was a key buyer of all of their products. And if we could only increase the sales of manufactured homes, my clients' sales would increase. I then spent the next year putting 200 manufactured homes on mall parking lots throughout the country as part of the Discover the Affordable Dream program. And I also convinced, on a trip to Des Moines, Better Homes and Gardens to do a 3-page spread. It all got sold in because my bosses let me pitch what they thought was my crazy idea. So creative bravery can lead to exciting work. And what I would tell you is to always push those boundaries, and you'll know where they are, as much as possible, because you're going to become known for the ideas you hatch and the programs you execute. So finally, as you chose your major for your field of study, I actually would encourage you to find a life minor. It could be related to your career, or it could be standalone, but it should be a passion that you pursue that gives your life more meaning and more satisfaction. My life minor, as Dean Fiedler mentioned, is helping to address gender equality. It all started when I was attending the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos for the first time. I was asked a simple question, and I didn't realize it at the moment, but this question would change my perspective. It was a very simple question. Whose wife are you? Well, I was excited to be at Davos among the world's top executives, politicians, and academics, ready to discuss topics ranging from sustainability to economics and business. I had not prepared myself for how it would feel to be a minority. Yet when I arrived, I quickly learned I was one of the mere 15% of official female delegates. Most of the other women participating in evening events were there as guests of their spouses. But the ease with which the question was asked multiple times let me know that it was assumed that as a woman, I was there as a spouse, not as a delegate. So for those of you that know me, I was pretty pissed. So I will admit, this started me on a journey, igniting my commitment to eliminate the gender barriers that limit career growth for women. I wrote a blog titled, "I Am Not a Wife, I Am a CEO." I became a founding member of Omni Women, a global program that elevates female leaders throughout Ketchum's parent company, Omnicom. I pursued a TEDx talk on this topic, and I am now the chairperson of the National Board of Step Up, a nonprofit that helps high school girls in underserved communities reach their full potential through secondary schools and career support. As Tom said, I have also spoken on stages globally and used my positions to be an advocate for equity. I hope, as you graduate, you will all join me in helping to create more equal opportunity in society and in the workplace. We all deserve a fair playing field, and I wish progress was being made faster. We all can cheer for that. As I said earlier, we are on a continuous learning journey. If I wrote my post-Davos blog today, I would write, I am a wife, I am a mom, and I am a CEO. I have now realized that it is important to be a role model for women to show that you can be successful in many simultaneous roles. I am just as proud to celebrate my 30th anniversary next week as my achievement of becoming CEO. And yes, it was the boy I moved to New York for. I have written many chapters of my story, but there are many more to come. In choosing your next steps, in picking minors, in trying new things, make sure each helps you fuel your passion and is part of the legacy you want your personal brand to stand for. Graduates, as the curtain sets on this part of your life story, it is also rising on the next one. If your story is not compelling you, take a pause. And remember, you can type in what happens next and change the trajectory. Your narrative for your career and your life is totally up to you. You have the tools and the talent to create a masterpiece, and I can hardly wait to see where your stories will take you. So congratulations, class of 2019, and thank you.